very, very tough on Russia. And the president just needs to reinforce, I think, the policies of his own administration.
Well, and as you know, the president had that offline backdoor meeting with President Putin there in Helsinki lasting 2 hours. We haven't really gotten any specifics in terms of what exactly it is that they discussed. Secretary Pompeo kind of said, without great detail, said that there was a discussion between the two presidents about a resolution in Syria and how we might get the refugees back. I want to now, before I get you to jump in again, Nile, is put up some reporting from the Washington Post by Karen DeYoung, and I'll read this to you. It says, asked about Russian claims that agreements had been reached during that meeting, a National Security Council spokesman said, quote, as President Trump stated, the two sides agreed that their National Security Council staffs will follow up on the president's meetings, and these discussions are underway. There were no commitments to undertake any concrete action beyond agreements that both sides should continue discussions, end quote. Now, but by the way, the spokesperson is speaking on condition of anonymity, also saying that the NSC and its Russian counterparts, again, quote, we're continuing a working level dialogue, listen to this, to review suggestions by Putin for a new cyber group and restarting a counterterrorism group. The two leaders also discussed forming groups of business people and of retired diplomatic and military officials to provide ideas for cooperation. Does any of this make sense? Is this a good idea, any of this?
Well, I think there's a huge amount of spin coming from Moscow, not least because you know, the full details of that 2-hour discussion have not been released. So the Russians are putting their own spin on this. I do think the White House needs to push back. And so this idea that the Kremlin is putting out that there are going to be all sorts of working groups to discuss cybersecurity, for example, business working groups, I do think that there's very little support for that on the US side. Let's not forget, the Russians are still under US sanction. The Russians are the masters of using you know, cyber terrorism, cyber techniques against the free world. And so, you know, we have to counter them at every single level. We simply cannot trust Vladimir Putin and his regime, whether it deals with cybersecurity or on issues relating to Syria or Iran or Europe. On so many fronts, we simply cannot trust Putin at all.
You said and quickly here, you said it's okay that President Putin is going to come to the White House sometime this fall. You said that's okay. How can President Trump make this right?
Well, you know, I don't think that Putin deserves actually to be coming to the United States, but the decision has been made by the White House. It is what it is. I do think that President Trump should stand up very aggressively to Vladimir Putin when Putin comes onto US soil. And Putin must understand that the leader of the free world will stand up to Russian aggression at every opportunity. And so I do hope the president will be making it very, very clear that Putin's aggressive actions against the US electoral system, his aggressive actions in Europe and also in the Middle East, simply will not be tolerated.
Nile Gardiner, thank you very much. We'll have you back again. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Meantime, President Trump says he is ready to slap more tariffs on